question. Do you think we still have a big problem with our federal government in Washington, D.C.? Well, if you do, stay tuned, because we at Convention of States have a solution as big as the problem. Well, welcome everyone. Once again, my name's Dale Parrish. I'm the state director for Convention of States here in Indiana. And as we normally do, we have three segments in our broadcast for you tonight. Although we're going to have to kind of change things around a little bit, but our first segment is the discussion segment. And the individual I originally had scheduled for this evening is on vacation, and however the location he's at in Florida, the signal was just not good, and we were very leery about bringing him on in an area where the internet signal was not strong. So we're going to move Richard. Richard Loken was going to talk about enumerated powers tonight of our government. So we're going to move Richard to the August 12th broadcast. And so you'll be sure to change that on your calendar, because I know Richard's got a good topic for us to talk about, and he'll be with us then on August 12th. Now, our normal gentleman that joins us, Paul Phillips, he is also on vacation this week, so he's unable to join us tonight. So what I'm going to do for the first segment, excuse me, I'm going to put on my state director's hat for here in Indiana, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit more in detail about the Convention of States organization here in Indiana, and specifically some of the needs that we have to be filled in our leadership roles. So hopefully, I hope you'll enjoy that, especially if you're just joining us, just learning about Convention of States. This will be a good opportunity for you to understand and learn more about our organization here in Indiana. And then, of course, our second segment will give you some more information about Indiana. And then our third segment, we will cover again the basics of Convention of States, the basics being the three tenets that we all in Convention of States learn and go by in our movement. Now, I also want to issue my warning, as I normally do, because if your screen would freeze up or go blank, that means we've encountered a technical problem, and I don't want you to hang around because it just takes us too long to bring everything up again. So if that happens, just turn us off and put us on your calendar to join us next Monday evening at 7 p.m. So I just want to make everyone aware that can happen. Now, I'm going to embrace two PowerPoint presentations for you tonight. So it may be a little cumbersome here from time to time, but I will try my best to make this smooth and go as well as possible. Now, what we're going to do here is start with our first PowerPoint, and this is going to be where I talk about a little more in depth about what we're doing here in the state of Indiana. And let me go back to that. I want to make sure. Yeah, okay, I'm set. All right. Sorry, just got to be sure that we're okay here. All right. As you know, if you don't know, you will now. Indiana is a passed state. Now that means that we have passed the application, or also referred to as a resolution, to hold a convention of states. Uh, it requires 34 states to make application for this to happen. We were number 6. We were the 6th state to do that. So yes, Indiana is a pass state. Now, many, I'm sorry to say, many thought that now that we're a pass state, that the job was over in Indiana, that there wasn't anything more for us to do. Well, believe me, there's a great deal more to do, and the job is far from over. Two things. We have to continue to maintain our relationship with our state legislators, our state representatives, and state senators. And that's very important, to continue to maintain that good relationship. And especially as new legislators come on board due to elections, we need to reach out to them. And if they're not supporters of Convention of States, we need to certainly try to bring them in the fold as supporters of Convention of States. So, and of course, the other thing that we need to do here in Indiana and countrywide is we need to continue to grow the grassroots. And that is getting more and more people to join the movement and join Convention of States. So growing the grassroots and maintaining those legislator relationships are two very, very important things that we need to continue to do. Well, I want to talk to you a little bit more about our needs here in Indiana. First of all, let me give you our vision statement for Indiana. And our vision here is to build a Hoosier grassroots community of citizens and legislators dedicated to the constitutional concept of self-governance. So everything we do here in the state, everything we do is geared toward achieving this vision someday in the future. And I want to point out here that this community that we're trying to create it's a grassroots community, and it does involve citizens as well as our legislators, our state legislators. Very important point. The other point that I want to stress here is the constitutional concept of self-governance. We encourage all of our supporters and especially our leadership personnel to be engaged in self-governance. In other words, be involved in your local community, your local town, area, whatever that may be. Get involved, be involved in some way or another in the governance of that community. And like I said, we encourage our leadership, especially our leadership, but all of our supporters, to be encouraged, be involved. Okay. Now, you've seen this slide before, and you'll see it again when we get into the basics of Convention of States. But in Indiana, we've surpassed 30,000 supporters. We did that in 2018. We've had tremendous growth here in the state of Indiana, and we are now, for 2019, we've set our goal at 40,000 supporters. We're about halfway there, so we're well on track to meeting that goal. About 2,900 individuals have indicated they're willing to volunteer and help us out. 40 individuals are in leadership roles right now. And if you have any interest in getting more involved in Convention of States, then I would encourage you to go to our website, conventionofstates.com. That's a national website. You'll hear us make reference to that frequently. Click on the menu selection, Take Action, and scroll down and look at the different volunteer opportunities that we have available. If anyone's of interest to you, open it up, read about it. If you're very interested in it, go ahead and make application. You're not obligated in any way. And what that does is that brings your name up on a report that I see every day, as well as a few others in leadership, and one of us then will be in contact with you to talk about that particular position that you've expressed an interest in. What I want to do now, though, is that I want to take a little time here and address and talk to you about some of the other particular positions that we have open. And here are some of the ones that we have open. If you like to organize events, organize meetings, organize gatherings, organize any type of event for the purpose of promoting convention estates, then please look at the events coordinator position. We are very much in need of someone that has a knack for doing this, and I know that there are people that enjoy doing this. Most of us find this very, very laborious, and it is not something that we look forward to doing particularly, because it's a hard thing to do. But I know that there are people out there that enjoy doing this. So if you enjoy organizing activities and events, look at the event coordinator position. Coalitions director. If you're a member of any local organizations in your area, organizations that maybe be they local or perhaps local as well as statewide, then, and you like talking to people about convention estates, then look at this coalitions director position. Building coalitions with various groups of individuals across the state is very, very important to us. And a lot of people in a lot of other organizations look upon us very favorably. So it would be easy for you to talk to them about convention estates. Again, it's all for the purpose of growing the grassroots. Next position, are you a veteran? If you're a veteran, or you don't have to be, but if you're a veteran, and especially if you belong to any veteran groups, take a look at the Veteran Coalition Coordinator position. Very much like Coalitions Director, but you would be focused on veterans groups here. Veterans, we find, are very, very much, in general, in favor of what we're trying to do in convention estates. So if you're a veteran and you have the ability and access to other veterans, please take a look at this position. Once again, it's growing the grassroots. And finally, here, videographers. We have a communications team, and we need people on here that like to create video. Now, if you're professional, that's great. But if you're not, that's okay. You can be an amateur, just like me, and where I use my phone and create video. The gentleman that heads up our communications team is a professional videographer, so he can help you as you create these videos. And this would be wonderful. We need more. We need a number of videographers around the state to make video of various events going on. Now, there's one more position I want to talk to you about. But first of all, I want to give you a little information here. This is our state of Indiana, and you'll notice here the numbers 1 through 9. Those are the regions that we have created here in the state of Indiana. They're very close to the federal regions created by our federal government. They very, very close outlines to those boundaries, I should say, to those regions. But we have 9 regions, and you'll notice the little white boxes in each of those regions. Those are districts. Those are lower house districts. There's 100 of them here in Indiana. We also have upper house districts, which would be senatorial districts, and there's 50 of those. But we are organized around the lower house districts, and that's not only in Indiana, that's all across the country. So we have 100 here in the state of Indiana, and our ideal goal, situation we would like to get to would be to have a district captain in each one of these districts. Now, let me talk about what a district captain does very briefly here. The district captain is right on the front line. Very, very important position. They're all important, but this is really an important position. You're on the front lines as a district captain. You make contact with your state legislators, your state representative, and your state senator. You are their contact for convention of states in your district, okay? Very important that you maintain a good relationship with those legislators. And next of important duty is to grow the grassroots. Talk to people about convention of states. This could include speaking at a town hall meeting, speaking at other meetings, could include appearing on this broadcast, could include maintaining an information table at a local fair. Matter of fact, we had 3 county fairs going on last week where we had information tables at each one of those fairs. So you're talking to people to join convention of states and growing the grassroots. Next, as a district captain in your district, to communicate with your supporters in your district. And you do this through a newsletter. Creating a newsletter that you would email to your supporters every month, kind of giving them a brief update on what's going on in the district and the state and nationally. And finally, most important is to build a team in your district, because this is a job that one person would find that person hard to get this all done. So it's important to build a team to help you get this all accomplished. District captain, very, very important position. Please take a look at that one as you look at the different volunteer leadership positions that we have available. And to wrap it up, we're all volunteers. I'm a volunteer. Every position here in the state of Indiana is a volunteer. And so we're all trying to do what we think is best for our country. And so it's all about volunteer power. And so if you want to join us, which I hope you do, then you're joining a very, very powerful group of volunteers in the state of Indiana. Okay, let me get back here and let me get that one out of the way. And I'm going to now, I hope, I'm going to bring up then the next PowerPoint, and this will be for the third segment that I'm going to move into now. And we're going to talk about a little bit, actually it's the second and third segment. We're going to talk a little bit more about the state of Indiana, and then we will get into the basics of convention of states that we all go by in Indiana as well as across the country. So let me bring it up here. Okay. The resources that we have available to us here in Indiana, as I've mentioned this before, our main resource is our website, conventionofstates.com. We talked a little bit about that in the opening segment. Embedded in that website is our state website page, so you'll want to take a look at that. It's conventionofstates.com/Indiana. So that's a little more focus on Indiana. Our Facebook page, our state Facebook page, Convention of States, Indiana. As a matter of fact, this broadcast is coming to you through that Facebook page tonight. YouTube channel, COS Indiana. Very much a source for various educational items, narrated PowerPoints, recordings of these broadcasts, as well as our legislative liaison, Paul Phillips, who's the gentleman that joins me frequently on these broadcasts. But Paul also does a series of podcasts called The Free to Be Free, and links are on that YouTube channel to all of his podcasts. They're excellent, very good. We're on Twitter, COS Indiana, our hashtag COS Indiana. Instagram, Convention of States, Indiana. We're now on LinkedIn. So you can find us all across the social media platform, as well as our main website, conventionofstates.com. All right. I just went over this slide with you in the opening segment, so I won't do it again. I just want to reiterate once again for you to, if you have any desire to get more involved, go to our website, conventionofstates.com, click on the menu selection, take action, scroll down, and look at the different positions that we have here that you can look at and hopefully get involved by selecting one of those positions. All right, now let's get into the basics of Convention of States. There are three tenets in Convention of States that we consider the basics. That's the problem, the solution, and the plan. The problem in one concise sentence is we think our government's pretty much out of control, basically lacks the will and the courage to address some basic structural issues in our government. We're not blaming any one particular party. Both parties have contributed, and this has been building and going on for decades. So this is not something that just happened. So that's the problem, lacking the will and the courage to address these basic structural issues. To define the problem a little bit more, we've identified what we call three abuses that exist by the federal government. Number one, our national debt. If any of you follow this very closely, you know we're in excess of 22 trillion. Maybe we may be at 23 trillion. I haven't looked at it here lately. It may have gone over 23, but I know it's well in excess of 22 trillion. Unfunded liabilities, something like 250 trillion. So very little, if anything, is being done to address this problem in our country, and that is our national debt. Second abuse we see is the regulatory crisis. The administrative state is considered now the fourth branch of government. I know the current administration has eliminated a number of regulations, but much more needs to be done in this area. And not only in existing regulations, but what needs to be done is the process that we go through to create these regulations and how that can be controlled. So the regulatory crisis with our administrative state is the second abuse. Third abuse has to do with the loss of state sovereignty. When our country was founded, the federal government and the state were supposed to share in power. Well, it's all tilted toward now the federal government. So that needs to be addressed. And what's causing that? Well, you name it, power, money. We think career politicians contribute a great deal to this problem. So those are the three abuses that we see as part of that make up the problem in our federal government. Well, what's the solution? Well, this is what we're all about, folks. Convention of States. Article 5 of our Constitution describes two methods to propose amendments to the Constitution. And we're going to touch on each one here. But this is what we're all about. The second method here to proposing amendments to the Constitution, we think amendments to address the abuses in our federal government right now. Well, the first method described in Article 5 is where amendments are proposed by 2/3 of Congress. 2/3 of Congress approve a proposed amendment or amendments to the Constitution. Well, those proposed amendments then have to be ratified by 3/4 of the state legislatures, which would be 38 states, before any amendment or amendments could be made as amendments to the Constitution. So they have to be ratified, all right? Well, There is a second method described in Article 5. We're not making this up. It's right there in Article 5. And that's where 2/3 of the state legislatures can apply to conduct a convention of states, and any proposed, for the purpose of proposing amendments to the Constitution, any proposed amendment or amendments that would come out of that convention would have to go through the same ratification process as in the first method. 38, 3/4 of the states, or 38 states, would have to then ratify any amendment or amendments that would come out of the convention. This is what we're all about. We want to see this happen. All right. Well, what's our plan to bring this about? Our plan involves two parts, really. The application strategy is the first part, and that is whereby we need to get 34 states to make application to hold this convention. And the requirement is that all those applications have to be the same. It's called aggregation. So what we have done in Convention of States is we've actually designed the application that we want the states to use. And in that application, in the subject matter of the application, which determines the agenda of the convention, the subject matter is divided into 3 areas: fiscal restraints, limiting power and jurisdiction of the federal government, and term limits. Those are the areas we believe will address the 3 abuses of our that we think exist in the federal government. So our strategy is to get 34 states to use that application to pass, to hold a convention of states. The second part of our plan is mobilizing the grassroots, and we've talked about this tonight, mobilizing citizens and legislators to bring this about. And as I mentioned, we're the 6th state that has already approved this. There have been 15 states passed the application or resolution. We need to get to 34. Convention of States, we're in all 50 states. Got over 30,000 supporters here in Indiana, over 3.9 million across the country. So our momentum is growing, and every time we add another state, it grows even more. So we would love to have you get involved. Convention of States. All right, folks, let's that's it for the PowerPoint presentations this evening. And let me see how see if I can see some individuals that have joined us tonight. Yeah, I see Jerry Rowe has joined us. Jerry's part of our leadership group here in Indiana. And I see Candace Parker. I think Candace, I think you were with us last month. So thank you for coming back, and thank you for joining us tonight. Let's see if we got any more here. No, I don't see any more right now. Well, folks, I really enjoy having you here tonight. Now, let me tell you a little bit about, before we close here, our presentation or our broadcast next Monday night, which will be the 29th. We're going to bring in our previous state director for Indiana, Miss Diane Gomez. And Diane preceded me in this position, did a wonderful job, and led our state, led us to passing the resolution to hold the Convention of States. So Diane's very, very well thought of in our organization. Now, Diane is now part of our national group. So Diane is going to talk to us about growing the grassroots from a national perspective. So her perspective, believe me, will be very, very interesting. So I would encourage you to plan on joining us for next Monday evening at 7 o'clock. And we'll be talking with Diane about growing the grassroots from a national perspective. All right. Well, I always like to close out with a favorite quote of mine, and this comes from one of our founders in Convention of States, Mark Meckler. And Mark has always said, that there's a basic question facing our country, and the question is not what should we do. The question facing us is who will decide. And we think, as Mark has said here, the question facing us is a two-word question, very simply, who decides? And we think that we, the people, should have more of a say-so in deciding, making some of these decisions in our country today. So that's what we believe in, we the people. And that's who we believe who should be more involved in who decides. Folks, thank you for joining us tonight, and look forward to seeing you again next Monday evening, 7 p.m. So everyone, have a good night. Thank you very much.